how do we go forward with this? And I was saying Florida grossly disenfranchised the African descended people who've been developing the state. Then they were the, highly Jim Crow, very violent Klan community. But yet Black people were resilient. And we talked about last time, some of the founders of Miami were Bahamian immigrants, literally founding the oldest continuously inhabited community in what is Miami today, Bahamian founders. We also talked briefly about how the reason why we have Biscayne Bay National Park and the beautiful Keys is because a Black family of Bahamian descent, and also the patriarch was a formerly enslaved person from South Carolina. Their descendants, they had been farming in the Keys, and they chose to sell their land at a loss to the National Park Service rather than to developers. So that's why we have the South Florida, the Miami that we have today, is because of these Black founders in so many ways. And then to have like an up note, I was thinking, like, what's the positive on this? I mean, first of all, Miami-Dade County has a day honoring this Sir Lancelot Jones, who created Biscayne Bay National Park through his land. But I was thinking about the future of Maxwell Frost, right? Maxwell Frost from Florida, who has Haitian ancestry, Cuban ancestry, Puerto Rican ancestry, Lebanese ancestry, African ancestry, right? And he's there on the front lines fighting the good fight. So I do think, I'm heartbroken about Florida. I'm from Florida. I love Florida, but I do think that there's people like Maxwell Frost and others who are, can maybe lead us out of this mess.
So you're optimistic.
If you don't stay optimistic, it's so depressing. It's so terrifying. All I can do is think of optimism.
And for the teachers that are listening, what advice, because you got on fire just going down a rabbit hole, and then one turned to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, where now it's your life. American Founders, the book, how people of African descent established freedom in the New World. But you teach this, you can't stop talking about it. Your page on Twitter is devoted daily to these hidden figures. I call them hidden figures, but they're there. We just don't look. And so I thank you for the work. What advice do you have for teachers who could be prosecuted for teaching this stuff in Florida?
I mean, I don't know what to say, because I remember, reading the stories about freedom libraries when people were like trying to have libraries in the segregated South and try to create Black libraries, and like insane, white residents would like blow up the libraries, or like, in other words, people were murderous about like libraries and about, Black people even reading. So it's dangerous. And I wish for everyone to stay safe and because I know how much violence this kind of stuff has caused. On the other hand, I think teachers have been doing this work all along, and I think a lot of teachers aren't going to change what they're doing, hopefully. And and I want to say, about, not to promote my book American Founders, but I'll tell you, like, no one's feelings get hurt when they read American Founders. Like, it's, with my Twitter feed, like, no one's feelings are hurt. I'm celebrating the best and the brightest and the bravest of our history. Who doesn't like that? Right? No one's feeling, I'm not hurting anyone's, I'm not denigrating anybody with those, I'm very careful the way I word them, And so, I mean, I have friends and acquaintances who've sent my book to Ron DeSantis to be like, you should teach this. I mean, people who are like conservative politically, and that's, some people could say that's me sort of softballing the history, but I say in the beginning of my book, I'm going to assume that you understand the history, the violent history of slavery and segregation. That this book is not about that. This book is about, like I said, these kind of, American heroes. And I think that's something we can all share, we can all be proud of, and that we should, celebrate as the best part of our history, is that these are people who tried to realize our best ideals. That is patriotism. And that's something to strive for. And it's a map for the future as well, I think.